The things we know that prevent you from speaking moistly. Speaking moistly. Keep 2 meters apart. Speaking moistly.
Hey everybody, welcome to Speaking Moistly. It is I, Greg Wycliffe, on this Tuesday afternoon, and I'm joined by the one and only Mark Peralovis. How are you doing today, Mark?
Very well, sir. Very well. Lots of things are happening today in the world of Canadian politics. It's all happening very fast as well. It's crazy.
And it's exciting. It's exciting. It's very exciting.
It's exciting. It is exciting. So I'm doing pretty good. I'm excited about our live event that's coming up on the 15th. I just want to plug it before we get too far into this.
No, absolutely, absolutely. So, guys, imagine if a doctor, a nurse, and a paramedic had a candid conversation, an uncensored conversation about what has happened over the past 3 years. Not just the lockdowns, not just all of that nonsense, but a little bit about how the gender ideology is getting into Canadian healthcare as well. Well, you can experience that at Speaking Moistly Live, an event next month. Mark and I are hosting it, and we have amazing guests, Dr. Patrick Phillips, Sarah C., the co-founder of Canadian Frontline Nurses, and also Scarlett Martin, the paramedic there. It's Saturday, April 15th. There's going to be a little bit of live music later as well by me and Mark. It's going to be fun. You know, it's cash bar. It's going to be a lot of fun. It's going to be a lot of fun. Yeah. Link is in the description.
Not like YouTube. Uncensored conversation, and it should be fun for a live event anyway. 3 years after the first lockdowns in Ontario, I think it's time to get back to live events. So we're excited to do this. I'm excited to do this. Let's get into the news today. Right up until today, it looked like there was a battle. There was a whole debate yesterday taken up in the House of Commons talking about should this be, we're going to vote to get this filibuster through and get Katie Telford testifying at the PROC. And that's the committee that's looking into Chinese interference. It seems like we're chasing our tail.
Do we know what that abbreviation stands for yet? PROC?
Yeah, it's in the CVC article. I actually had to just look it up. It is the Procedure and House Affairs Committee.
Oh, okay. Because I was going to say there's no B for Beijing in there.
Right. No, that's true. China. But it's very interesting that this massive fight was shaping up. It almost got to the point of a confidence vote. Confidence vote in the House of Commons could have potentially led to an election.
And then all of a
sudden, just before the vote, Trudeau backs down and he allows his chief of staff to go to the committee. Now, the Liberals are in charge of the committee. There's 5 Liberals, 1 NDP, and I think two conservative MPs on this committee.
Trudeau's chief of staff, Katie Telford, to testify at committee probing Chinese government interference. You know, I am so jaded, Mark. I am so jaded because anytime I see, hey, we're the government, we're going to investigate ourselves. You know, it's like, oh, is this going to be like the committee after the SNC Lavalin scandal?
Yes.
So it's like
it will be exactly like that.
I'm not excited at all. Like I'm so tired of this. This little play, this little act of like accountability. We hold hands. We hold ourselves accountable. And it's like, I don't think so.
To me, we have enough. We have already from the leaker, the CSIS leaker that's been exposed by Sam Cooper. I think Sam Cooper. I'm getting his first name wrong. From Global News.
Oh, okay. Okay, yeah.
The guy who originally broke the story, and from the Globe and Mail, right? So we've already got enough information from those sources, I think, to confirm that we've got a big problem with our elections. And to me, it seems really strange that we're going on this fact-finding mission with the people who are potentially compromised in charge of the fact-finding mission. So if they find an inconvenient fact, they can just sweep that under the rug conveniently for themselves, and then we don't get to find out about that. It's national security, don't you know? But national security just means keeping these guys in charge. Who? Beijing? I mean, China?
Well, and yeah, exactly. It's like it's you know, you absolutely nailed it. You absolutely nailed it. Because there's a lot of implications of what you just said too, which is this fact-finding mission is going to turn into a fact-hiding mission, and you know who's in control. China's in control of this inquiry. Like, they're going to be pulling the strings to make sure that they reveal just enough information to see, why people were ringing the alarm bells. But there's really nothing to worry about, you guys. And that's why I feel like, I don't know about you, Mark, but I feel like I'm taking crazy pills because, I tweeted about it this the other day because, a lot of the conservatives are like, yeah, like Trudeau, you got to answer to this. And it's like, folks, Chinese spy balloons, Chinese military training here, Chinese police stations. Are you dumb to think that it's just this like little tiny bit of election interference that
it seems like there's a pattern. You know what the pattern is?
Chinese infiltration at every level in every institution of our country.
So it's obviously white supremacy.
Ah, correct.
Clearly, obviously.
You're right. You're absolutely right.
But when the entirety from our education system to our immigration system to our healthcare system has seemingly been weaponized against the Canadian people, how can we be assured? And every investigation from SNC-Lavalin to the Nova Scotia shooting to the Danforth shooting, anything that's had a public inquiry or we're going to take a second look at that, it's all been to buy time. It's all been to cool off the public's outrage about something they rightly should be outraged about.
Yeah. And that you made me think of a question. When's the last time anyone was ever brought to justice in this country? Like I'm thinking the SNC-Lavalin scandal, and it's always been this sort of soft, sort of maybe a slap on the wrist, but like not even a slap on the wrist. It's like, well, you're kind of in trouble, but like we're not going to really talk about how you're in trouble. There's a whole bunch of blacked out information on these sheets of paper that we're just going to kind of, let's not do a follow up on that. We're CBC. Yeah. And it's like, I
asked on Twitter, has anybody seen an Oakes test for any of the pandemic policies?
What's
from
an Oakes
federal
test? What is that?
For the Oakes test, in order to violate the rights in the Charter of Rights and Freedoms, the definition of what a reasonable violation is measured by something called the Oakes test. And is it measurable? Does it have anything to do with what is being, like, you can't say we want to reduce the speed of people driving on roadways, so we're going to mandate everybody eat lemons. Like, there's nothing to do with eating lemons with driving.
So there's
right,
that would take an Oakes test and it would fail the Oakes test.
It fails the Oakes test. Yeah, Oakes is spelled Oakes, Oakes. So, and it's a name, right? But the Oakes test is meant to quantify what is meant and in what circumstances, what has to be met in order for the violation of the charter right to be valid and appropriate. And if it doesn't pass the Oakes test, then it can't be done. And so, like the voting for the Senate for the Emergencies Act, I wonder, when has this happened? And it seems like nobody is interested in getting to the bottom of this. Nobody's interested in using existing laws to hold our government and our officials accountable.
And guess what? That we'll go to this clip. That's a good segue into this clip, because apparently that's nothing new.
I was the chief of Asia Pacific for CSUS in the mid-90s when we were corresponding with our U.S. counterpart, and we were exchanging data, we were exchanging worries about what was going on. When we published our report, it was totally cited, and nobody wanted to pay attention to what we were saying. At that period of time, we could have been capable to probably mitigate the threat that China was starting to engage against us. Today, it has evolved to the size that now the revelation of the Globe and Mail tells us. And this whistleblower is doing us a service to reveal what all government, every party, every government has ignored for decades now. So it's not only this current government that is at fault. All previous governments were also ignoring what we were saying.
So, Michelle,
all previous governments were ignoring what we were saying. And, I think that people need to broaden their perspective on this, I think, because I feel like, we were talking about Telford and all this, and I almost think like this back and forth between the Liberals and Conservatives is kind of distracting from the fact that it's like we're standing on a rotten out foundation. You know what I mean?
Yes.
And to look at the bigger picture, folks, China has so many incentives to subvert and control Canada. Like, we have so many natural resources here. We are such a naturally resource-rich country, and if you think of it from that perspective, it starts to make more sense in terms of
we're so rich. We're dumping milk. We dump millions of liters of milk every year. We just dump it into the ground. Why? Economics. To make sure the price of milk stays where the government wants it to be, which is increasing every week. But we're that rich, and China sees that. They just bought a plant in Mississauga. They just put together a $275 million plant invested to make baby formula. 80% of it is going to be exported to China, right? So like, we're willing to share. Canada is willing to share, even in this configuration, right? But it seems like people don't realize that China wants all of those riches. These are riches, being able to have productive land, productive cattle that produces all that milk. China's got a massive population compared to us. Massive, just huge, right? They're exporting 80% of that milk. So it's just wild, right? Thinking about the incentive for that.
It's a big incentive. People are saying my volume's low. Is that better, guys? Can you hear me out there? Hello. So let's go on to the next story here, which should we talk about? Yeah, we'll talk about Anthony Furey for a minute.
Mayor of Toronto.
Anthony Furey is running for mayor of Toronto. Anthony Furey is known for what? He's on True North Center right now, right?
Yeah, he was for a long time one of the senior voices on Sun Media, and he was trusted all through the pandemic as one of those kind of an old school reporter, right? And then when True North invited him on, they hired him as a kind of a top tier programming manager or something like that. Like, he wasn't a journalist, but he was an editor.
Let's get right into it. Let's watch his message. Have you seen his message yet?
I haven't seen it, but I can't hear any of the volume on here anyway.
Well,
so
play it on your end then.
I'll play it on my end. Okay.
Okay, ready?
Yeah.
3, 2, 1.
Throughout my years as a newspaper columnist and broadcaster in Toronto, I've had the opportunity to speak to people from every corner of the city from all walks of life. And while we all love our city, the one thing more and more people are saying is that Toronto feels like it's in decline. And as a father committed to raising my 3 kids here, I want to do something about it. And I don't believe that the status quo people who got us to this point are the ones who can get us out of it. It's time for a fresh perspective. And that's why I'm running to be the next mayor of Toronto. We have to have a conversation about who really runs this city. Because on the one hand, you've got the lobbyists and the big corporations who think they call the shots. And on the other, there's the fringe activists who show up kicking and screaming and City Hall caves to their demands. Well, those days are over. You know who I want to make City Hall about? The hockey moms, the guy stuck on the 401 all day, and the small and medium businesses who've taken a beating the past few years. Now, I'm looking forward to announcing some big ideas in the weeks ahead. But to start, when it comes to the crime and attacks on our streets, the experts tell me that so much of this is related to the drug crisis. There are people on our streets who, due to their situation, are committing 6, 7, 8 crimes a day related to their addiction. But a compassionate society doesn't keep people on drugs, it gets them off of them. So it's time for Toronto to do what so many other jurisdictions are now doing, and that's a focus on treatment. Our brothers and sisters on the street need our help, and by helping them, we make our neighborhoods safer.
I'm going to 1.5.
We also have to do something about all the
just stop it,
City Hall that has nothing to do.
Okay.
Just stop it.
I feel kind of bad because he seems like a nice guy. He's trying to do the right thing. Running for mayor is like a big decision to make. You're going to run into a lot of issues. You know, it's a gauntlet. It's really an awful gauntlet of trials and tribulations to run a mayoral campaign. But this guy does not. I don't think this guy's it. I don't think this guy's got it.
Well, put the video back up again. Don't push play. Just put the video back up.
Sure. For
the viewers. Okay. So can you look at the stats? Oh, can you go to YouTube?
Yeah. So this is the YouTube stats.
So Anthony Furey, after 10 hours or 9 hours, he's got 546 views. That's not so good. And so March 21st, it was posted, and he's got 10 subscribers. Hold on. Up. And 24 comments and 10 subscribers, 31 likes. That's not the numbers you want to see necessarily, I think, after making an announcement like that. But I don't know, what do you think, viewers, and Greg? Is that a good result, or is that the result of a winning municipal campaign? I don't know.
It's
You
very.
could buy 500 likes for like $10, right?
You know what? Even though he's like our guy, he's like more of a right wing guy apparently. You know, it just reminds me of the neocons. It just reminds me of Pierre Poilievre. It reminds me of this sort of like, hey man, we're gonna, and I don't think that energy is what we need. I think we are in the corner. We're cornered by this huge beast called globalism. They're about to impose 50-minute cities, digital ID, all this stuff. And
people don't even believe it. That's the point. Like, so
people don't even believe what?
Any of it. All the things you just said, they don't believe any of it.
No, but guess
and
what?
Even when it's happening.
No, I agree with you. But who is better to try and wake people up to help them believe it?
Let me blow your mind a little bit more. I know. Yeah, I know. But he's not in this paradigm either. He's in blue pill paradigm. He wants it to be like it was. Like, he wants to look at Toronto as a microcosm in and of itself, and he wants to serve the hockey moms and the soccer guys and the commuter on the 401.
So this is why
that's laudable. But
can I tell you why Anthony Furey has no chance? Because he's using the exact same strategy that the globalists are going to use, but the globalists are going to have millions and millions and possibly billions of dollars of advertising propaganda money behind them. He's trying to be a better globalist than the globalists. It's like you're going to get.
He's just trying to play the game. He's just, yeah. I agree. But here's the even crazier part, though. Like, most people don't believe any of the things that you just said about the digital IDs and the CBDCs and all of that stuff. People, if you go back and say, we shut down schools, we shut down churches, we arrested pastors for having a cold, like, this is. We changed, we had zero flu. If you go back and you tell people exactly what happened, they don't even believe it or understand the impact of it. Or I'm completely misunderstanding the world I lived in prior to 2020. And 2020 was a rational, reasonable response to whatever COVID was. Or 2021 was a rational response. But I don't think so.
So this is, I hear what you're saying. And to an extent, you are correct, but more and more, I'm thinking we feed ourselves in the political sphere. We feed ourselves a lot of BS, I think, in terms of getting caught up with, well, the studies say this, or the stats say this, or the population doesn't believe in that. The population doesn't listen to this.
I just want to clarify. Do you mean like Anthony Furey and somebody who's planning on running, or like somebody who's consuming politics?
Yes, the political sphere, as in people like us, as in the small fringe minority that actually follows Canadian politics. Like
dozens of us.
We get all 18 of us. Thanks for watching, all 18 of you. But but seriously, you are a minority if you follow politics closely. And sure, to an extent, people don't know about, digital ID and the many implications, blah, blah, blah. But when it comes down to it, what we all forget, not all of us, but a lot of people in the political sphere forget, is it's actually the psychology of leadership and the psychology of politics that's important. And it's not really the psychology of politics as much as it's the psychology of popularity and gossip. And like I said, the psychology of leadership. Policy this, policy that. I want to follow somebody that I think can lead me. I want to follow somebody who's going to energize me and get me pumped up. And, because in many ways, Trump kind of like shattered the whole political sphere, right? It's like, oh, he can't do that. He's too offensive. He's too irate. Trump, but when it came down to it, people liked him. They liked him as a guy.
He hotwired the political sphere. Trump went on a way that not anybody could do. You know what I mean? Nobody can do what Trump did to get into politics and win the presidency. He went at it sideways, basically, right? Like, and usually what happens is you start in a small political role in like a school board or a city municipality or something like that, because you believe in, schools should have driveways that are, ringed or something like that. And then you get in there and you get that done and everybody's like, oh, that guy's a great politician. He said do what he did, and he did it, and people like that. And then you get a bigger job because you're like, well, if I could do that ring road thing, I could probably do something with those hospital beds. And then you get into provincial politics, and so that's what the usual stack is. That's what the usual politician does. And most people don't give a shit about any of that. Most people don't care what books are in libraries. Most people don't care what people are taught at school. Most people don't have kids. Most people are under 30. They don't have kids. They don't give a shit about schools. They don't give a shit about churches. They don't give a shit about anything, right? Are you going to interrupt their drinking? That's maybe what they care about, right? And like, that's maybe a little bit pessimistic, but not far off, I don't think. And so people just don't care. And so all of these things get subverted. And when it starts to show, people don't know how to fight back. But politicians like Anthony Furey want to be middle of the road because they think the game is the same as it used to be, right? When in Mel Asman's time, or even in John Tory's first term, but it's not the same as it used to be. It's very different. The motivations and the what's it called? The motivation to. No, like the motivation to go after somebody who's being a mayor, who's going to be a mayor, and like maybe not even tell them that they're a Chinese agent, but to onboard them as somebody who's like, if you're a lobbyist for a Toronto restaurant chain, right, or something to that effect, or the gardener, or whatever you want a lobbyist for. If Anthony Furey is going to be the mayor, if it looks like things are shaping up to Anthony Furey to be the mayor, you're going to suck up to him. You're going to invite him to, your event thing or whatever. You're going to say, oh, the future mayor of Toronto, right? Like, there's that whole infrastructure that starts up with that, right? And so like, it's hard to tell the difference between a Chinese asset and not, and it's hard to tell the difference between something that's good for the electorate necessarily and something that's maybe good for China, right? And I'm not trying to forgive it. I'm just saying it's hard to suss out, especially in the situation that has been created in Canada, where we're bringing in 1 million people a year, and there's all sorts of competing interests all over the place, right?
Well, I think that what Trump did that was powerful is he created a vision, and he kind of smashed the Overton window. He smashed this sort of status quo that existed. He said, we are going to build a wall. These people are rapists. Like, he said things that completely whoa, I thought politics was supposed to be like boring and tame. Right. And I don't disagree. And consider how important the rise of Trump was to where they are now. What was the fight against globalism before Trump? There wasn't much.
People didn't know. You're not wrong.
Exactly.
People didn't know. And people didn't know about gender ideology until recent years.
And unfortunately for Anthony Furey, again, all the power to him to do what he's doing. But he says he's fighting the status quo. But it's like, dude, you sound so status quo. You sound exactly like the status quo. And before we move on to the final topic, because I know you got to move soon here. You know who isn't status quo and who's actually just got arrested the other day in Calgary? Chris Scott.
No, I know. I just want to That's pretty wild. He was in Calgary? I don't think I'd go to Calgary.
Well, I don't know why he was there. Maybe it was a speaking event or something. But he's this is somebody who like the state seems to really not like. And
it seems like they're afraid of him.
Yeah, and you said that digital ID or whatever isn't something that people care about or know about. Mm-hmm. People didn't know about, vax mandates. People didn't know about how bullshit lockdowns were. And Chris Sky was one of the people who actually popularized that arguably more than anybody. So if there's anybody who can actually ring the alarm bells on 15-minute cities, ring the alarm bells for the country as a whole, but especially Toronto, the most populated area in the country, it's somebody like Chris Sky. It's the loudmouth Jim Bro. And even if you don't like him, you got to realize he's the guy to take the penalty shot. Okay. He's the guy who is going to be able to,
he's Jamie Tart.
He's our best shot here. Okay.
Yep.
So,
all right, let's move on to Somali education for Alberta youth.
Yeah, I haven't watched this clip yet, so I'm ready to cringe.
Just don't play. Okay, it's only a minute 13. Okay, good.
Yeah, today we announced, if elected, the Alberta NDP will create a Somali curriculum for Alberta schools. And the UCP had 4 years to do this. Why didn't they prioritize it? Why didn't they prioritize it?
Jeepers creepers, great
Alberta's diversity is our greatest strength and should be reflected in our curriculum. You should get a diversity of diet, with all due respect. Okay, let's listen to this clip. Ready? 3, 2, 1, go.
given that that's false, and given that creating a Somali curriculum is about celebrating the vibrant language and culture of Somalia while creating and ensuring that youth are supported in their learning in Alberta schools, and given that we are in the NDP and we are committed to making sure that all students in Alberta schools have the tools they need to be supported, and given that clearly hasn't been a priority under the UCP, we are committed to offering a Somali curriculum. So, why didn't the current education minister or anyone in the UCP make this a priority they've had 4 years?
The Honourable the Minister of Education.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Again, school authorities have the flexibility to develop or acquire locally developed courses to address particular.
Yeah, it's enough of that. That's Canadian politics is a circus, but like Alberta politics seems like even more like a circus within a circus.
It's very interesting. Why
didn't they prioritize Somali curriculum? What the?
There is a Somali. I think that there's a tweet there that says there are 800 Somali kids, like kids of Somali descent in Canada, in Alberta, in that school system, and they're saying like they should have been catered to. And I think fundamentally, if you're in Canada, you should be given a Canadian-centric education, not one that kowtows to your whatever ethnicity you are. Gearing your education to whatever ethnicity you are, isn't that kind of racist? Like, we'll give you the Somali education.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I think that's a silly argument. Like, the Dems are the real racists. Like, the left is the real racists. Like,
I think there's credibility for that argument.
No,
because if you think you're such a great person that they need your help,
there is. But the problem, I don't like it. That argument is because you are validating their moral frame. That being racist is the worst thing ever. When in reality, it's just a dumb fucking idea. Part of my language. But like, calling them racist. No, it's just a stupid idea, and you're being an idiot. Like, and it should be more. It should instead of saying they're the real racist, it should be more led towards, hey, maybe we should actually focus on assimilation. How dare you say that word? Like, focus on actually championing Canadian values.
Well, I mean, if you have a standardized education system developed for Canadian kids, and somebody comes to Canada to be a Canadian kid, presumably, if they're in Canada and a kid, welcome to Canada, you're a Canadian kid, then it should be good enough for everybody. But why? I don't understand. Again, it's just the ethnicity and all that other stuff. I think that there's hubris. I don't know. There's something extra special about the hypocrisy in, like, we're such good people. We're oozing, our virtue signaling is top notch. We're so good because we're willing to offer you an ethnically responsible or an ethnically reflective education. I think it's ridiculous. I think it's completely ridiculous.
Yeah,
just get educated.
It's super disturbing too, because this works on people who have been fully indoctrinated. They don't they don't care about really the meritocracy of the idea. Is this a good idea? Does this idea make sense? It's just like, oh, brown people? Oh, gay people? Must be good idea. Oh, is minority or marginalized group being talked about? Wow, this is so brave and amazing. And it's disturbing. Like I said, it really only works on people who are kind of indoctrinated into that worldview, which is
disturbing.
I guess only people in Calgary and Edmonton, from what I hear. I heard rural areas, that stuff doesn't really fly.
I guess so. Yeah, but they're doing that just to demoralize, because I think they do that in places like that because it seems like if you crack that nut, the rest will fall easy, right? That's a hard one, right? Alberta would be difficult to crack, and then the rest would be easy.
I think you're right. I think when you are a leftist, it is a challenge of like, let's see how absurd we can get. Okay.
Yeah. Men can be women. Let's
push like Somali curriculum. How about that?
Yeah, okay, for sure. Like, it's just crazy. Take the men can be women thing to Somalia and see how that goes.
Yeah. All right, you got to go. Thanks for being with us, Mark Peralvis. For everything from me, you can go to gregwycliffe.com. What about you, Mark?
Check out cdnPoli.com. I do an hour-long daily show about Canadian politics, and it's super fun. And thanks for having me on the show, Greg. And join us on April 15th in Mississauga. It's in Mississauga area, and the location is on the ticket, or will be. I don't think I actually added it. I tried, and then it didn't save properly, so I'm going to do that today.
Not to worry. It's an uncensored roundtable. It's a Dr. Patrick Phillips, the founder of Canada Frontline Nurses, and a paramedic, Scarlett Martin, also an
I gotta go. Bye,
here in
everyone.
Canada. All right. See ya, Mark. We will talk to you next week on Speaking Moistly. Thanks for watching, everybody. We will talk to you soon.
We know to prevent you from speaking moistly. Speaking moistly. Keep 2 meters apart. Speaking moistly.